Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let your arms go heavy, your breath slow. And as you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing what time it is, where you are, and what city or village you're listening from. It's love to know. And if you'd like more quiet stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe so they gently appear when you need them most. Now, let's begin. Your heart is not a drummet, it's a tide that pulls inward and out in your dreams. Neurons blaze like constellations. Movement is written into your DNA. Even your bones whisper as minerals shift within them, from the smallest cell to the largest muscle. Your emotion, electrons drift, spin, and flicker in their orbits. Each breath carries particles from galaxies you've never seen. Each breath carries particles from galaxies you've never seen. Rest does not mean silence. It means balance. Inside you, time walks quietly, barefoot, never stopping. Blood flows like a silent tide beneath your skin. Cells divide, repair. Remember? Stillness hums. Stillness pauses. Stillness lives. Stillness is the illusion your senses create so your mind can rest. Your body is always humming sometimes. Low, sometimes loud. Atoms are not particles, okay? They are probabilities forever shifting in your body. A soft orchestra of those shifting notes. Even when you are still, your body is not. You are not bound by walls, only by attention. What you call rest, your atoms call work. Organs do not sleep, okay? They whisper to each other in chemical size. Protein. Strands fold, unfold. Fold, searching for purpose. Stillness is just movement. You've stopped noticing. The smallest units of your being dance like flames. Sleep is not pause. It is reorganization. Your skin renews. Your blood listens. Your gut decides. You shimmer like dew that hasn't decided to fall. Even the earth beneath you vibrates. You are a constellation of motion, pretending to be still. The sound of stillness is just the rhythm of tiny worlds. Each particle of you hums with multiple lives. Even your memories shift while you sleep. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is harmony in motion. The quantum world waits, breath held. Uncommitted, microscopic engines turn deep in your cells every second. A billion reactions unfold in silence. Stillness hums. Stillness pulses. Stillness lives. Stillness is just another word for hidden motion. Inside a drop of blood, universes of motion unfold. Atoms buzz. Electrons orbit. Molecules bind and let go. What you feel as peace is really a dance too small to hear, and yet it sings through you. Even now, even here, you lie still, but within there is choreography. Quiet, cadence, continuous. A ballet of biology. A harmony of heat, of currents and sparks. You breathe in rhythm, even while you sleep. The chest rises. The lungs expand. Oxygen flows. Not one breath the same as the last. Each one a wave like tide, like wind, like whisper, within the breath. Cells are fed. Signals are sent. Messages are passed like glowing fireflies in a forest. You do not direct this orchestra. You are the orchestra. You are the rhythm. You are the hum. You are a vessel of quiet, kinetic life. Each fingertip is alive with electricity. Every heartbeat releases a pulse of motion, a moment of change. The silence between beats. Even that hums. Your blood is not red until it meets the air. Inside you, it is deep and dark and warm. It flows with a mindless purpose, turning, moving, cleaning. It loops like a river with no source and no mouth. And the river never stops. It only adjusts, slows, accelerates, balances. Balances. Even the quiet has its mechanics. The brain's default mode. Network stirs gently. It works while you rest. It sifts through memories. it dreams. New patterns, it knits your story back together with golden threads. And what of your bones? They do not simply hold you. They respond. They sense pressure. They rebuild. They send signals to dot bone is not stone, it is alive, and the muscles wrapped around it. They pulse, even in your sleep. Tiny twitches dot invisible repairs. They hold you even when you think you're letting go. Motion is built into your very being, from mitochondria to marrow. Nothing is still. Even your tears flow with salts carried from ancient seas. There is history in your stillness and in the silence. Echoes of stars, the iron in your blood is older than the earth. The calcium in your teeth once drifted in stellar dust. Even stillness carries movement across time. And what of the skin? You shed it daily. Millions of cells let go without you knowing. Old becomes new. Quietly, you are always becoming, always remaking, always shifting, and still, you call it stillness. Stillness is the outer shape of quiet evolution. It is the shell of the storm that always brews beneath. But not all storms are violent. Some are soft, some are slow. Some are the kind that whisper rather than roar. You are a soft storm, a gentle field of motion wrapped in skin. Even in sleep, you shift, you roll, you stretch, you sigh. The body seeks comfort by listening to itself. It doesn't ask permission. It simply moves toward balance. Homeostasis is its goal. A kind of soft middle, a hush of chemical calm. Even digestion continues quietly. You are not doing nothing. You are doing everything with quiet precision. The gut speaks to the brain. In serotonin, the brain replies in dreams. Your internal clock ticks on. Circadian rhythms drift like ocean tides. You are not still. You are SYNCED, two light, two darkness, two cycles. Born of stars, the earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour beneath you, and you feel none of it because you are spinning. 2. Everything is motion. Your stillness is only a tiny pattern painted on a moving canvas, and maybe that's what peace really is. Not the stopping of motion, but the joining of it, the trusting of it, the surrender to rhythm. Even silence is not empty. It is filled with waiting, with preparing, with moving in slow spirals, the kind you don't need to see to believe. So tonight, as you lie still, remember that stillness is the softest motion, that you are not frozen, you are flowing. And in this quiet motion, this shimmering almost stillness, a deeper question begins to form. What is time? Really? Really? You lie still, listening to the quiet, but even silence moves forward. You are wrapped in something invisible, something soft, persistent, and undrossable lead. Time, it doesn't tick, it doesn't hum, it doesn't leave fingerprints, and yet it leaves. Everything else, wrinkles on a face, dust on a windowsill, a memory that fades just slightly each year. You live in time, the way a fish lives in water. So close, so constant, you forget it's there. You measure it in hours, in days, in calendars, in candles, in sunrises, in shadows on the floor. But time itself is not the clock. It's not the hand that moves, not the date on the screen. Time is the unfolding dot, the change, the slow drift from what was into what is, and then into what no longer is. You feel it in your bones when the air cools, and in your chest when a loved one leaves. You don't have to look at a clock to know you've changed. You are witness to the passage. Your very body is a clock, marking time in scars and softness, in laughter lines and lengthening hair. But ask yourself this: what is time? Is it a river? Is it a line? Is it even real? Or is it just how your brain stitches moments together so that life makes sense? Your breath flows in, then out. You blink. The room remains. You think, therefore, you believe the thought had a before and an after. but the particles that make up your world, they don't seem to care at the smallest level. Time may not flow at all. Particles can behave as if the past and future are interchangeable, reversible. Like a film you can rewind without penalty to them. A moment is not bound by direction. To them, there is no arrow of time. But to you, there is always a before and an after, a childhood behind you, a night ahead. This is because you remember, because you feel the difference between what has been and what might be. But time doesn't show itself. You don't bump into it. You don't slice it. You only measure it by its echoes, the wilted leaf, the cooled tea, the fading star. And because you can't stop it, you assume it's flowing, but maybe it isn't. Maybe your mind builds the story of time like it builds the illusion of color and taste. Maybe time is a perception or useful one. Yes, but a perception, nonetheless. This idea isn't new. Some physicists whisper it gently through their formulas. That time is not fundamental, that it may be emergent, something that rises out of patterns, like warmth from fire, or softness from 1,000 woven threads. No single particle contains time, but together, they create the impression of it, like clouds forming from invisible vapor. And yet, you live by it. You are ruled by its rhythm. You rise with alarms. You mourn its loss. You celebrate its passing. You even fall in love with the idea of forever. But in the realm of physics, there may be no forever, no moment at all. Only configuration after configuration, like pages in a book, each complete and still, but when flipped appearing, alive. Maybe you are the book, and time is the flipping. Or maybe you are the page, and time is the eye that reads you in your dreams. Time twists easily. A lifetime can pass in seconds. A single moment can stretch impossibly wide. Your mind holds no loyalty to the clock, only to meaning, only to story. That's why memory is your compass through time, not the seconds, but the sensations, not the ticking, but the touch. You remember a voice, not the hour it spoke, a gaze, not the day it met yours. And so, perhaps time is love's map, or grief's thread, a thread that pulls through you and stitches moments together. But how can something so personal be measured in numbers? With a pendulum, a quartz crystal, a laser, a cesium atom vibrating in darkness. Each of these is a guess and agreement among humans about how to count something unseeable. A second, for example, is defined by the oscillation of radiation in a cesium atom, billions of beats per second, precise, unimaginable, comforting. But if you move fast enough, even that second will stretch. If you fall near a black hole, may nearly stop. Time is not the same for everyone, everywhere. Einstein showed us. This time is flexible, relative, tender, like cloth that drapes across the universe and wrinkles under gravity. So even if you carry a perfect clock, the truth of your time may be different than mine. You age more slowly on a mountaintop than in a valley. You live longer on an airplane than on the ground, if only by billionths of a second. You are not imagining it. Time is strange, and your experience of it is stranger still. Sometimes it rushes, sometimes it stalls, sometimes a year disappears like smoke. Other times, minute one end. Why? Because your brain doesn't measure time like a stopwatch. It measures it by change, by surprise, by newness. A routine compresses time. A novelty expands it. That's why childhood feels long and adulthood feels fast. Because when everything is new, time stretches. And when things repeat, time folds inward. So how can you ever know what time really is? You can't touch it. You can't see it. You only feel its shape as it moves through you. And yet, your entire life unfolds upon its invisible stage. Time is the medium in which your story exists. And maybe, just maybe, that's all it needs to be. Not a thing, not a force, not a thread or a tunnel, but a context, a frame, a field in which you grow, because without time, nor is no before, no after, no growth, no change, no meaning. You'd be a frozen sculpture of flesh and thought, but with time, you bloom, you shift, you age, you remember, you dream, you heal. Time does not fix things, but it moves you forward, and in motion, there is grace. So let it move you, let it carry you, like a current carries a leaf, gently, slowly, inevitably, because the next chapter of your journey is written in its flow. And before time truly began, there was silence, a stillness beyond memory or moment. And then something happened, something impossible. And everything time, space, breath began. But that is a story for the next chapter. Try to imagine a time before time, a place with no place, a silence so complete it did not even know it was silence. No ticking, no glowing, no breath, just nothing. And then everything. The moment we called the Big Bang was not an explosion in space, it was the birth of space itself, of time, of measurement, of separation between then and now. It was not loud, not bright. It did not begin in time. It made time before that moment. The question, what happened before, has no meaning, 'cause before did not exist. There was no ticking clock waiting, no canvas for things to occur on, only a strange potential resting on the edge of being. And then it changed. The universe did not burst into a vacuum. It brought the vacuum into existence. The expansion began not at a single point in space, but everywhere, all at once. From that first breathless instant, time began to flow. Not like water from a faucet, more like the unfolding of a new kind of possibility in the tiniest sliver of a second. Far smaller than a blink the universe grew, unimaginably, from smaller than a proton to something the size of a grapefruit, or perhaps a galaxy. It's hard to know. This was inflation, a balloon inflating so fast that space itself stretched, and with it, time blossomed. It wasn't a ticking clock, but a rhythm of change. Moments began to separate. A before and an after emerged from the timeless void. In those first seconds, the universe was a fog of pure energy, hot, thick, glowing, no stars, no galaxies, no atoms, just energy vibrating through space, newly born. Time, too, was still young, rough, undefined, but it moved. It unfolded, and in doing so, it made everything else possible. From this early plasma, particles began to cool. Quarks found each other, clinging into protons and neutrons. Light struggled to move, bouncing endlessly between free electrons. The universe was too dense, too hot, too close to itself. It would take nearly 400,000 years before the fog would lift, but still time ticked on. Its first seconds were strange. 1 second after the Big Bang, the universe had cooled to about 10 billion degrees. Still hot enough to melt anything, but cool enough for structure to begin. Neutrinos, ghostly particles, streamed outward, untouched by the storm. Hydrogen formed, helium, to dot the building blocks of future stars. And time kept unfolding, second after second, moment by moment. It's cosmos in slow bloom. You weren't there, but the atoms in your body, remember, they were forged in that early fire. They were born in time's first cradle, and through them, the memory lingers. Every heartbeat you feel today rides the rhythm, first established in that cosmic dawn. Every moment you experience follows the path carved by that first unfolding. Without that moment, there would be no clocks, no ages, no futures to dream toward. You are made of time, just as surely as you are made of matter, because matter, too, is shaped by time's passage. Stars ignite only after waiting in darkness. Galaxies form only as gravity gathers slowly. Even your life, your growth, your aging, your remembering requires time. But none of that could begin until time was born. It's easy to forget this. Easy to think of time as something that always was, like air, or space, or math. But time is more delicate than that. It needed a beginning. And, in its birth, it shaped the rules. From that first instant, time has always moved forward, never backward. Why? No one is quite sure. It could have gone either way. But from that first breath, chose an arrow. Entropy, the tendency of things to spread, to soften, to become more random, became its guide. From order to disorder, from low entropy to high, from newborn to elder, from light to ash dot. This is the arrow you live within, the arrow that gives life its story. Without it, nothing could unfold. Everything would stay balanced, silent, unchanging. But time chose motion, and so it began. The first, second, passed, and then another and another, each one containing more than the last. More stars, more space, more mystery, until one day time carried dust into stars, stars into planets, planets into oceans, oceans into life. And, eventually, time carried you here, to this moment, this breath, this gentle awareness. It's easy to think the universe began in violence, that the Big Bang was a kind of roar. But really, it was more like a hush breaking, like the first ripple on a still pond, the first gesture in a long, slow dance. You are part of that dance. You carry its rhythm inside you. Your cells know how to divide, not because they were told, but because time taught them. Your thoughts flow in sequence because time offers them a path. Even your sleep is tied to this ancient unfolding, circadian rhythms. Brain waves, dreams, they all flow along the current of time's birth. And though it happened billions of years ago, that moment still echoes. It echoes in microwave background radiation, a faint glow that fills the sky. It echoes in the spin of galaxies, in the slowing of stars, in the ticking of your watch. Every tick is a child of the first second. Every beat, a descendant of time's first breath. So the next time you feel stillness, remember, it isn't still. It's a moment suspended on the thread of a very ancient unfolding, a thread that began with silence and then became time. But what came next? Once time had a rhythm. How did we decide what a moment even is? That's a question waiting just beyond the horizon of this thought. Time flows through your life like a stream through a forest. Okay. Always moving, always whispering. But how do you catch a stream? Okay. How do you hold a single droplet long enough to call it a second? Okay. You try? Of course. You try with watches, with numbers, with beats. You try by dividing your life into pieces, into hours, minutes, moments. But a moment is not a thing you can hold. It is an agreement, story told by matter as it dances in place, a compromise between the infinite and the measurable dot. So you ask, what is a second? It seems so simple. You say, just a second, as if you could borrow one from your pocket. The truth is more delicate. A second is not founded, it's made in ancient times. A second was not a second. It was the swing of a shadow on stone. It's a drift of light through a doorway. A bowl of water slowly overflowing. Time was measured by what moved visibly, the sun, the stars, the sand in a glass. And even then, people disagreed. No two shadows moved quite the same way. The Babylonians watched the stars. The Egyptians tracked the flood of the Nile. The Mayans listened to the breath of Venus. Each culture made their own rules for rhythm. Eventually, the clock was born. A wheel turning, a gear clicking, a hand sweeping across a face like a silent metronome. Now you live, surrounded by them. Clocks in your phone, your oven, your wrist, all agreeing on the same second, the same minute, the same hour. all pretending that time is stable and still. But clocks are not truth. They are language, a way for humans to say, this is now, and hope others agree. Still, the question lingered. What exactly is a second? In 1967, physicists offered an answer, not with sand or shadow, but with light. They turned to the cesium-133 atom, a small, invisible piece of matter that pulses, not randomly, not wildly, but with incredible regularity. When a cesium atom jumps between two energy levels, it releases radiation, a wave of light with a precise frequency. This wave vibrates billions of times per second, to be exact, 9,192,631,770 vibrations. That's what we now call 1 second. You don't feel those vibrations, but they are real. Cesium doesn't care about calendars or birthdays. It simply moves predictably, beautifully. That motion became our metronome. The world now ticks. 2 atomic time, GPS satellites, internet servers, deep space observatories, all synchronized by invisible pulses of cesium. Your life is shaped by them, though you rarely notice. Every time your phone adjusts its clock, it listens to the beat of atoms. Every financial trade, scientific experiment, digital message, all lean on this invisible rhythm. A second has become precise. But still, it is not a thing. It is a vibration, a ritual, a choice. You could define it differently. In fact, some want to. New proposals use optical clocks, which measure even faster, with greater precision. But no matter how exact the definition, a second remains an agreement, a handshake between matter and meaning, because even the most perfect clock must live in a world that is imperfect. On Earth, gravity bends time. At sea level, a clock ticks slower than one on a mountaintop. You sit in a valley. You age just a little more slowly. Even your heartbeat affects perception. A racing pulse makes moments feel longer. Calm breath shortens them. In dreams, seconds stretch like taffy. In grief, they vanish altogether. So, what is a moment, really? Is it the space between thoughts? The time it takes for your eyes to close? The blink between awareness and memory? Or is it just an illusion, a way for your brain to organize chaos? Neuroscientists say your mind processes the world in intervals, roughly 2 to 3 seconds at a time. Each interval stitched to the next like a quilt of now. Between those stitches, you might not exist at all. It's flickers of attention. It's brief windows of being and still, you never fill the gaps. Time feels smooth, continuous, like water. It's running over skin, but it is chopped, sampled, interpreted. You are not living in real time. You are living in a rendering. Your brain doesn't just measure time. It builds it. It slows it in fear, speeds it in joy, stops it in shock. That's why moments feel so different. A car crash lasts forever. A sunset lasts a breath. And in between, you measure. You count the seconds it takes to fall asleep. You count the hours until morning. You count the years since someone said goodbye. Each count is a story. Story is a kind of clock. And each clock, a mirror of who you are. Because measuring time is really just measuring yourself. So tonight, you lie here, wrapped in soft ticking. Not from the wall, but from your own sense of unfolding. You measure time by heartbeat, by memory, by the softness of your pillow. By the way, the room has changed since sunset, and you know without looking that time is passing. Not because a clock says so, but because your breath continues, and because change is happening, even in the stillness. But now, imagine a moment when time does not behave, when it stretches, bends, or slows. Not because of feeling, but because of physics. Imagine a world where time depends on how fast you move or how heavy the thing near you is. That world is real, and Einstein showed it too. US. So now, let's drift forward into that revelation, toward a place where time stretches. Close your eyes for a moment. Let yourself feel the rhythm of the clock not on the wall, but inside your body. It's a slow exhale, the pause, the inhale, a heartbeat beneath your ribs. It's a gentle pulse in your fingers. Now imagine that rhythm changing, not because of stress or joy, but because of where you are in the universe, or how fast you are moving. Because in the early 1900s, a quiet man named Albert Einstein unfolded a truth that seemed to bend reality itself. Time can stretch, it can slow down, can run differently for different people, and sometimes it can nearly stop before Einstein time was thought to be absolute. Newton had described the universe like a great ticking clock. Time ticked the same for everyone, everywhere. But something about that never quite fit. And Einstein, with his quiet mind and deep patience, saw the flaw. He didn't see time as rigid, but as soft, flexible, responsive to motion and gravity, not fixed like a ruler, but curved like a cloth draped over space. And that idea came the theory of relativity. Here's how it works softly, gently, like a bedtime thought. The faster you move, slower time flows for you. Not in your perception. You don't feel a change. Quote, to someone watching you, your seconds stretch. Imagine a clock flying past you on a spaceship. To your eyes, it looks normal. Tick tick, 1 second at a time. But to someone watching, from Earth, the ticks come slower, more spaced out. That's time dilation. Time, breathing differently for each perspective. The same is true with gravity. The deeper you fall into a gravity well, say, near a planet or a star, the slower time moves for you relative to someone farther away. This isn't science fiction. It's been measured. In 1971, scientists flew atomic clocks on airplanes. They compared them to identical clocks left on the ground. When the planes landed, the clocks were no longer synchronized. The ones in the sky had ticked differently. That tiny shift proved a massive idea. Time is not universal. It bends with motion and mass. You live on a planet that's constantly moving, spinning, orbiting, drifting through space. Right now, your head is farther from Earth's center than your feet, and because of that, time is moving faster at your scalp than at your toes, only by the tiniest sliver of a second. But it's real. If you stood on a mountain, you would age a bit faster than someone in a valley. Clocks on GPS, satellites spinning high above Earth, tick faster than clocks on the ground. If we didn't correct for this difference, GPS wouldn't work. Your phone would be lost, so we adjust. We bend our tools to match the bend in time, and all because of Einstein's gift, the knowledge that time flows like a river through hills, not a flat, constant stream, but a path shaped by gravity, pulled by speed. Now, close your eyes again. Imagine yourself on a spaceship, moving fast, close to the speed of light. To you, everything feels normal. You sip tea, you read a book, you drift into sleep. But back on Earth, decades pass. When you return, you are young, but your loved ones have aged. The Earth is older. You have traveled, not just through space, but through time itself. This is called the twin paradox. One twin stays on Earth. The other travels at near light speed. When they reunite, they are no longer the same age. The traveling twin has experienced time more slowly. Not a dream, not a story. A fact. We are not used to thinking this way. We believe in shared calendars. We imagine time zones as lines on a map, but these lines are human creations. Nature doesn't follow our clocks. Nature follows curves. When light passes near a massive star, it bends. So does time. A second near a black hole is not the same as a second on a beach, and yet you are never aware of this. Time feels smooth. You don't notice the bend, because to you, time always flows at the speed of you. Einstein taught us to accept the universe's flexibility. to let go of absolutes, to see time not as the stage on which we act, but as a character, changing with the scene. He gave us a mirror that reflects not just our place in space, but our dance with time itself. Now, think about your dreams, how they stretch and compress time, how you wake feeling like hours passed in moments, or moments stretched into hours. Your mind already understands what physics had to prove, that time is not fixed, that it is deeply personal, that each of us moves through it on a slightly different thread. And that knowledge brings comfort, because even in moments of stillness, you're part of a flowing, shifting universe. You are not trapped in time. You are embraced by it. You are not a fixed object in a ticking world. You are a wave, moving through softness. You are the second, stretching into a minute. The heartbeat slowing as you fall asleep. The breath that fades into a dream. And now, let's go deeper. Let's follow time as it slows to its most silent crawl. Let's move toward the edge of a black hole and see what happens when time nearly stops. Close your eyes and imagine a pair of twins. They are born together. They grow up sharing birthdays, memories, and quiet childhood dreams. One twin stays grounded feet on Earth, time ticking like usual. The other climbs into a spacecraft and sails outward into the dark silence between stars. You picture their goodbye. One wave from the launch pad. One look through the shuttle's window. And then lift, off, out there, away from home. The traveling twin moves faster than anything you've ever known, near the speed of light. So fast, the stars blur and time begins to soften. Here on Earth, the days unfold as they always have. The seasons change. The rain falls. Children laugh in classrooms, grow taller, go off to college. Time moves forward, steady and smooth. But in the spaceship, something else is happening. Time is moving, slower, not in a broken way, not in a strange, uncomfortable drag, but like a lullaby slowed down so every note can be heard just a little longer. The twin, in space, feels fine, reads a book, sips tea, sends messages home, but each message takes longer to reach the other twin. Each photo from Earth shows older trees, new buildings, faces that look a little different than before. Out there, time has stretched. The clock on board ticks gently, but compared to Earth's clock, it's behind. Because in Einstein's world, motion especially, near the speed of light bends time. This is time dilation. This is relativity made real. This is not just an idea, something we've measured in satellites, in fast-moving jets, labs with perfect atomic clocks. But the twin paradox makes it beautifully human. Let's say the traveling twin spends 5 years circling a distant star, then turns around and comes home. For them, only 5 years have passed. They step out of the spacecraft, smile, wave. But their sibling, they've aged maybe 10 years. They are older. Their body shows it. The world shows it. And suddenly, two people born at the same moment no longer shared the same age. That's the paradox, but not a contradiction. It's paradox only because it surprises our instincts. We expect time to be fair, even shared, but the universe never promised that. Einstein's theory of special relativity says, time depends on your speed. The faster you go, the slower your internal clock ticks relative to someone standing still. So the twin who stayed behind lived through more Earth years, more birthdays, more sunsets, more life. And the twin who flew among the stars has aged less, not because of magic, it's because of motion. It's a thought that softens everything we know, because if time is flexible, so is our experience of it. You can live longer relatively, just by moving faster. Of course, we don't yet have spaceships that travel near the speed of light, but the math holds. The experiments support it. K. And the clocks never lie. Even GPS satellites, spinning high above Earth, tick a little differently. They move fast, far from gravity's grip, and we must correct their clocks to match the ones on the ground. Your phone's location, your map, your route, depends on our understanding that time is not absolute. Now, come back to the twins. Imagine their reunion. One older, one younger. One who remembers years of change, and one who feels barely different. What do they talk about? The time they lost, the time they gained. Maybe they just sit quietly, not trying to explain, because some things don't need explaining. Some things just are. The twin paradox whispers something deeper, that we are all moving through time in slightly different ways. You and a bird, you and someone on a mountain, you and someone on the International Space Station. You are all experiencing slightly different slices of time, and yet we live as if we're all synchronized. We share calendars. We celebrate New Year's together. We build bridges and railways based on clocks we all agree on. But beneath that agreement is a quiet truth. Our moments are not truly the same. And maybe that's okay. Maybe time is personal. Okay? Maybe your sense of now is yours alone. So, when someone says, "I'll see you soon," what does soon mean? Is it seconds, days, or something stranger? Time isn't just numbers. It's memory. It's motion. It's a rhythm each of us keeps in our own way. And sometimes we dance in harmony. It's times we drift apart. It's times we come home and find each other changed. The twin who traveled may not regret the journey. The one who stayed may not mourn the difference, because both lived truly. Both felt the weight of time, even if it pressed differently on their skin. And what does this teach you? It's that time is not a prison. It's that the tick-tock you hear is not the same in every room, in every heart, in every stretch of sky. Einstein didn't just give us equations. He gave us permission to rethink our most trusted sensations. To embrace the idea that time, like love, can be stretched, and that maybe we are all travelers. Not through space, but through rhythms, through our own version of now. And so you lie in bed tonight, feeling your breath, your pulse, your moment. Someone else, somewhere else, feels theirs just slightly different. And that's the beauty. Time is not one melody. It's a symphony. You're a note within it. Long, soft, stretched across your own tempo. And just ahead, something even stranger. What's what happens when time doesn't just stretch, but slows so much it nearly stops? Let's drift there now, toward gravity so deep it pulls not just light, but seconds themselves, toward a place where time is a whisper on the edge of silence. Silence. You think of time as steady, as something that moves equally everywhere, a metronome tapping the same rhythm in every corner of the world. But time is more sensitive than that. It listens. It listens to gravity, to height, to mass, to where you are standing right now. And if you were to move up a mountain or deep into the Earth's belly, time would shift its rhythm. It's just enough for the universe to notice. Picture this. You are standing in a valley, cool air wrapped around you. Your feet press gently into the soil. Above you, a mountain rises calm, solid, ancient. You take a breath, and then a step, and you begin to climb. Each meter you gain lifts you farther from the planet's core, farther from its dense, warm heart. And as you rise, time speeds up, but just a little. Not enough for you to feel it. Not enough for you to age faster in any way you'd ever notice. But it's real. A clock in your backpack ticks more quickly at the summit than it did at the base. Scientists have tested it with the world's most precise atomic clocks. They placed one at the top of a mountain and one at sea level and waited when they compared. The clocks, they were no longer in sync. Time had passed slightly faster for the higher clock because gravity was weaker there. This is gravitational time dilation, the gentlest of whispers. The kind of change you only hear when you know how to listen to the smallest ripples of spectani. It's strange to think of gravity, not just pulling on your body, but pulling on your time. Down deep in a cave, where the air is still and the rocks are heavy, you sit with another clock. This one ticks just a little slower, because Earth holds it more tightly. The clock, like your body, is drawn inward, and time responds all around the planet. This subtle game plays out. On tall plateaus, clocks tick faster. On ocean floors, they slow. It doesn't affect your daily life, but it shapes the very structure of reality. Your GPS, the phone in your pocket, satellites overhead, they all rely on an exact understanding of how gravity bends time. Without it, your directions would be wrong. Your path would drift. The map would no longer match the land beneath your feet. We live in a world that quietly depends on Einstein's insight, even when we don't notice it. But now, let's descend. Imagine entering a mountain, walking deeper through tunnels, cut by water, by miners, by time. The light fades, the air cools, and with each step downward, you walk into a slightly different tempo of time. It's not dramatic, but it's there, as if the seconds grow heavy with stone, slow with pressure, tense with silence. It's hard to believe that something as soft as a second can be shaped by something as physical as rock. But that is the truth of space-time. It bends to gravity. To mass, to presence. Even your own body slightly bends space-time around it. Not in a way that matters to cities, or roads, or clocks. But still, you are a participant in this shape of time. Now picture a clock on your wrist, the one that ticked with you as you climbed the mountain. It sits still, glowing gently in the dark of the cave. Its hands move a little more slowly now, almost imperceptibly, but it's enough. Enough that physicists can measure it. Enough that the universe registers your change in position. Even in stillness, you are part of a great choreography of mass and time, gravity and pace. And as you rest beneath the mountain, you realize something. Time is not uniform. It doesn't care about fairness. It bends to presence, to pull, to proximity. It is elastic, sensitive, live in its own mysterious way. And once you accept this, that even a small shift in elevation can alter the tempo of your seconds, you'd begin to wonder, what else could change your time? A different planet, a stronger gravitational pull, a place where time nearly stands still. What about a black hole, where gravity is not gentle, but overwhelming, so strong that even light cannot escape, where time doesn't just slow, but freezes? What would a clock do there? What would happen to you? The mountain was gentle, its time dilation soft, but at the edge of a black hole, a single second can stretch into eternity, at least from the outside. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, stay here, okay, deep inside the earth, in the quiet belly of stone, and listen to how the silence around you holds time differently than the air above you. Are still the same person, still breathing, still present. But your seconds are slower here. You are slightly younger than you would have been had you stayed on the hilltop. It's strange and beautiful and true. The earth does not just hold your weight, it shapes your experience of now. Every step upward is a step toward quicker time. Every step downward is a descent into slow, and yet you don't feel it, because your thoughts slow with you. Your cells slow with you. Your breath adapts. You are a clock, but also the one who reads the clock, the observer, the participant, and the dreamer of moments. If time can change here in your basement, on a mountain trail, inside a mine shaft, then maybe time is more fragile than we think, more flexible, more alive, and maybe, just maybe, there are places in this universe where time doesn't just bend, but disappears, where gravity becomes so strong it swallows the seconds, where clocks fall silent, where light cannot escape, where time becomes a wall you cannot pass through. This chapter deep, quiet, okay? And earthy leaves you standing at a threshold, at the edge of something deeper, because ahead of you, waiting just beyond the next breath, is a place where time slows to a crawler place near a black hole, where the universe whispers, and time nearly forgets to move. You lie still, your body gently wrapped in blankets, your thoughts beginning to drift between here and somewhere else. Tonight, that somewhere else is darker than dark. It is not evil or cruel, only indifferent. It's a place where the laws, the tick of time, the path of light, begin to dissolve. This is the edge of a black hole. Not a hole in the way a bucket has a hole. Not an emptiness, but a presence so dense, so collapsed upon itself, that it no longer allows space to stretch around it in the usual way. It is heavy, unimaginably so. A single black hole might weigh more than 1,000,000 suns, crushed into a point so small that it disappears from sight. What remains is not a dot, but a boundary, a place called the event horizon. It is not a wall. You could drift across it without ever feeling the crossing. No alarms, no changes in air pressure, just a line you didn't know you crossed until it was far behind you. But once crossed, there is no return. Not even light escapes from a black hole. And if light cannot escape, neither can time. Or at least, time cannot escape the way it usually does, flowing gently forward like a river at the edge of a black hole. That river becomes a swamp. It thickens, it slows, it pools into something sticky, strange, and still. Imagine watching a clock fall toward a black hole from far away. You would see the seconds slow. The hand on the clock would begin to tick more and more sluggishly until it seemed to freeze just at the edge. The clock is still falling, still moving from its own perspective. But to you, watching from a distance, it never crosses the horizon. It appears stuck in time, forever approaching, never arriving. This isn't science fiction. This is general relativity. Gravity doesn't just pull on mass, it pulls on time, and a black hole has so much gravity that time itself begins to bend around it. It's like soft metal curling around a magnet. Closer and closer, the object falls. Slower and slower, the clock runs until 1 second stretches into a minute, then an hour, then a year. From your position far away, it seems as if time inside the black hole simply stops, but from the point of view of the falling clock or the falling astronaut, time moves normally. This is the mystery. Two truths, two realities. Outside, time slows, freezes. Inside, time flows, still ticking forward. But that time is now isolated, sealed behind the veil of the event horizon. It has become its own island, disconnected from the rest of the universe. You could imagine a traveler gently falling toward a black hole. They see the stars above the ship they came from, the galaxy stretching wide and bright. And then, slowly, those stars begin to drift. Not because they are moving, but because time itself is being warped. Light that once moved toward them now curves away. The colors shift, the frequencies stretch. Everything begins to redshift, a slow, silent pull toward invisibility. To fall into a black hole is to fall out of sight, to fall out of communication, out of memory, out of time. And yet, this isn't death in the usual sense. This is transformation. You become something the universe cannot reach. You are not erased, but your signal is lost. Your story is sealed behind an unreachable curtain. The black hole keeps your mass. It keeps your energy, okay? And perhaps, in ways we don't yet understand, keeps your information. Some physicists believe that black holes do not truly destroy what they consume, that in some deep quantum way, the information, the arrangement of particles, the shape of your atoms, the signature of your life is still stored at the edge, on the surface of the event horizon. In flickering quantum patterns, some whisper, of you may remain. This is called the black hole information paradox, a puzzle not yet solved, a question still echoing through the minds of scientists and dreamers alike. If your information, everything you are, can be described in particles and patterns, then where does that go when you fall into a black hole? It cannot disappear, okay? That would break the rules of physics, so it must be kept. But how? And where? And what does that mean for time, okay? Imagine being caught at the edge, not yet fallen, not yet free. Your seconds stretch like syrup. Your voice slows to a crawl. To anyone watching, you are frozen. But to yourself, you're still thinking, still breathing, still alive in your own time. Is this how the universe meditates? Does it hold some thoughts so deeply that it slows them to stillness? You are not meant to survive a black hole, at least not physically. But the idea of you, the pattern of your atoms, may live on in ripples of gravitational waves, in twists of space-time, in codes we do not yet know how to read. And when two black holes collide, as they sometimes do, spiraling into each other, across eons, they send out tremors, gravitational waves, like the quiet drumbeat of the cosmos. We have felt these waves. Up from observatories on Earth, we have listened to the echoes of black holes merging far away. Time trembled, and we notice it's strange to think that something so small, so silent, so hidden, can affect the fabric of the universe. That two objects we cannot see can shake space-time itself and send their rhythm across billions of light years to reach our quiet planet. And if those waves can reach us, then perhaps nothing is truly lost, not even time. Perhaps it only waits, compressed into a place where clocks slow to stillness, and every second becomes a doorway. You lie there, listening, not to sound, but to the possibility of deep silence, the kind of silence that doesn't just come from emptiness, but from weight, a silence so heavy that even time cannot escape it. And still, you are drawn to the edge, because the edge is not an end. It is a threshold, a place where science meets mystery, where time becomes soft clay, and where the universe tells you something important, not in words, but in pause. If time can slow this much, can it break? A clock can stop. Does that mean time itself can fail? And if it does, what comes next? You are almost at the end of what we can know, but not quite, because beyond this stillness lies something, even stranger. A law that whispers why time flows only forward, never back. An arrow that points us through tea, cooling, and cups, classes, breaking on tile, memories building, but never reversing. This is entropy, the direction of disorder, and it holds the next secret in its palm. Let yourself float now between this moment and the one that follows, where the arrow of time begins to bend, to bend. You lie still again, sinking deeper beneath the weight of blankets and breath. Your thoughts slower, now softer, perhaps blurrier. And in this gentle space between wakefulness and sleep, you begin to notice something peculiar. You cannot unstir your tea. You cannot uncrack an egg, You cannot unfall from a ladder. Time, it seems, has a preference, It moves in one direction, not two, And though your memory is filled with moments from the past, the future still lies blank. This feeling, this one-way pull is not just in your head. It's in the physics of everything. It's called entropy, not chaos, not noise, but disordered, gentle, creeping disorder. Entropy is the tendency for things to go from ordered to disordered. It's from precise to jumbled. It's from structured to scattered. Take an ice cube, solid, sharp, clean. Its molecules locked into a neat lattice, each in its place, each following the pattern, but melted, and everything softens. The structure loosens. The molecules spread, shuffle, drift. This is entropy at work, an increase in the number of possible arrangements, a widening of the deck, Or imagine your bedroom, tidy in the morning, each book in its place, each sock folded. But over days, things change. The sweater on the chair, the mug on the nightstand, a pen beneath the pillow. No one designed the mess. It happened on its own. Because disorder is what happens when you stop trying. When you stop inputting energy to maintain the shape. And that is the secret. Entropy increases when energy is not spent maintaining order. It's why things fall apart, why castles crumble, why food spoils, why memories fade. Even the stars are losing their sharpness, burning through fuel, spilling light into the cold, dark, becoming dust over epochs. Entropy is the reason time feels like it has a forward direction, because it is only in the forward flow that disorder continues to grow. No matter how delicate the clock, no matter how precise the crystal, there is always some loss, a flicker of heat, a breath of waste, a sigh from the universe itself. This is the second law of thermodynamics, a rule not invented, but noticed. In a closed system, entropy never decreases. The room gets messier. The tea cools. The smoke does not reassemble into a candle. And yet, the laws of physics, when you read them carefully, are not biased. They do not forbid time from running backward. A ball rolling down a hill could just as easily roll back up on paper. The math is symmetrical. The equations don't insist that time move only forward, but the world does, because in practice, in this universe, the tiny fluctuations required for reversal are almost impossible. Too many particles, too many chances for variation, too much entropy. The arrow points forward because that is the path with the highest probability. You cannot unscramble an egg because there are trillions of ways to be scrambled and only one way to be whole again. The odds are so staggeringly low that it becomes effectively impossible. And so, time flows forward, not because it must, but because it's easiest. Because there are more ways to be disordered than there are to be perfect. Think of memory. You remember yesterday because it was more ordered than today. Tomorrow will be more jumbled still. Even your thoughts are part of the flow, building complexity, losing detail, fading toward the blur. This is not sad. It is the music of existence. Entropy is not destruction, It is transition. The falling leaf, the crumbling mountain, the spreading warmth of a shared hand. These are not failures. They are movements. They are the proof that something once was and is now something else. You are not immune to entropy. Your body is a temporary arrangement of carbon, water, memory, and yet you resist it. You eat, you sleep, organize your life into little rituals, brushing teeth, folding clothes, lighting candles in the dark. Each act pushes back gently against the unraveling. You are a temporary pocket of low entropy surrounded by a universe that always climbs toward more. Your brain, particular, is a miracle of arrangement. A tangle of neurons so precise, so finely tuned, that it can hold a memory or imagine a future, or whisper a story to itself as you drift off to sleep. But even here, entropy wins, slowly. Neurons age, connections dim, words slipped, and yet, very act of wondering about it is an act of resistance. To understand entropy is to make peace with impermanence. You are not built to last, but you are built to wonder, to connect, to witness. And every time you observe the world, really notice it, you preserve something, a shape in the flow, a note in the noise. Entropy may guide the arrow of time, but it is not cruel. It is merely indifferent. Tide that does not care whether you swim or float or fall. But you, and so you preserve meaning in photographs, in lullabies, in the slow memory of how sunlight felt last summer. Time flows forward. Things change, soften, blur, but there is beauty in that drift, like music that must be heard once to be treasured forever. There are even those who think entropy is the very reason you have a concept of time at all, without disorder increasing, without a before that was simpler, and an after that is more complex. You would feel no passage. Everything would sit in stillness, unchanging, eternal, meaningless, but because the tea cools and the stars fade and your body exhales more than it inhales, you understand time. Entropy is the whisper that tells you you were here and that you were once there. And though time feels cruel because it never turns back, it also gives the world a story. The mess is part of the message. The loss is part of the shape. And maybe that's why sleep feels so comforting, because in dreams, you let go of the direction. You allow time to coil, to pause, to replay. Step outside the arrow and float. UNMEASURED. And when you wake, the entropy returns. The dishes are still dirty, the socks still scattered, but so is the memory of the dream. A place where the arrow bent just enough to let your soul rest. You are not meant to defeat entropy. You are only meant to move through it with grace, with awe, with the knowledge that nothing lasts, and that, too, is sacred now. You might wonder, if entropy pulls us forward, what happens when the universe runs out of order altogether? When every star has burned out, every atom settled, every difference smoothed? Will time still tick, or will it stop? That question waits at the edge of everything, and perhaps the answer lies in the space between galaxies where the universe keeps expanding, and time itself may begin to stretch thin. You lie back, not just on your bed, but on a raft floating across an ocean made of stars, all around you, space sighs outward, softly, steadily, like a chest rising in sleep. Galaxies, those swirling cities of light, are not just sitting still. They are moving. They are drifting away, farther and farther, faster and faster, not because they're flying through space, but because space itself is stretching. The universe is expanding. It's not like ink spreading in water. It's not like fireworks bursting and fading. It's something deeper. It's quieter. The very fabric of reality, the stage on which everything exists, is pulling apart. Imagine baking a loaf of raisin bread. Dough is space. The raisins are galaxies. As the bread rises, the raisins move away from each other, not because they are walking, but because the dough between them is growing. This is the expansion of the universe, and it changes everything, because if space can stretch, then time, the twin sibling of space, can stretch too. Einstein showed us long ago that space and time are not separate. They are woven together into something called space. Bend space, and you bend time. Stretch space, and time may loosen. And as the universe expands, time does strange things. Clocks tick differently depending on where they are, how fast they move, and how space curls around them. But what happens when all of space is stretching? Everywhere, all at once. It's like trying to count seconds on a moving escalator. When the stairs beneath you are changing size, your sense of duration may stay the same, but the landscape of time is shifting underneath. In the early universe, time was tight and hot and fast. Galaxies formed quickly. Light had little room to wander down now. In this mature cosmos, time seems to slow. Stars live longer. Distances stretch beyond measure, and if the expansion continues, which it seems to, then time may slip even more. There are places in the sky, distant and faint, where galaxies are vanishing, not because they blink out, but because their light is stretched too far to ever reach us again. The space between us grows faster than light can travel. It's like waving goodbye to a ship on the horizon, knowing you will never see it again, not because it sank, but because the ocean grew between you. This boundary This unreachable line is called the cosmological horizon. It's the limit of what we can observe, the outer edge of our knowable universe. And here's the strange part. Everything beyond that horizon is not just out of sight, it's out of time. We will never know what happens there. Not now, not ever. It's as if pieces of the future are slipping away like notes from a song we'll never get to hear. And yet, those galaxies still exist. They still shine. They still move. But to us, they are already part of a silent history. This expansion affects more than light. It affects what's possible. When the universe was younger, galaxies crashed into each other more often. The stars were born in bursts. Black holes grew like hungry embers. Now, in this era, the energy is thinner. The collisions are rarer. The fire has softened into a long glow, and if you look far enough ahead, billions and trillions of years, you see something quieter still. A universe with no new stars, just embers and echoes, soft darkness. Physicists call it the heat death of the universe, a time when expansion has spread everything too thin for complexity, for life, for thought. But tonight, you are here, alive, listening. The stars are still bright, the galaxies still close enough to speak, and time still kind, still long enough for laughter, for wondering, for resting in the arms of someone you love, still long enough to fall asleep and wake up to morning light. So don't be afraid of expansion. It is not a ripping up, it is a breathing. Universe is inhaling, and you are cradled inside its chest. There is another strange thing. As space expands, the wavelengths of light stretch too. This is called redshift. Imagine sound slowing down as it moves away, a siren drifting into a hum. The light from distant galaxies is stretched into longer, redder waves. So red, in fact, that some become invisible. They fade into the infrared, then microwave, then radio, until all that remains is silence. But from that silence, we learn the very first light in the universe. The cosmic microwave background still bathes us today. It is ancient light, whispering from just 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It has been stretched by billions of years of expansion. And yet, it persists. It is the lullaby of the cosmos, soft, steady, glowing in every direction. So you see, even as time stretches, some things remain, not fixed, but remembered. And perhaps that's what time really is, a memory, a pattern of changes, a record of movement. If the universe stopped expanding tomorrow, you would still feel time because things would still change. But the shape of that change would be different. The future would arrive more quickly, or more slowly, or maybe not at all, because time is not a single thread. It's a fabric, and as the fabric expands, it pulls the moments with it like beads on a string being stretched between your fingers. What does it mean for you? It means your life is part of something vast. Your every moment is painted on a growing canvas. You are not just passing through time, you are helping to shape it by existing, by moving, by feeling. You are a marker in a stretch, and though the future is slipping outward, further and further away, you still have now, this moment, this breath, this thought. So take it slowly, let it linger. You don't have to chase the future. It is coming to you, softly, inevitably, like starlight from a distant past that only now reaches your face. And when you sleep, your body may rest, but your atoms still ride the wave of expansion, still stretching, still aging with the stars. And the stars, they stretch too. Their light elongates into echoes, their presence fades into memory. But you'll remember, you carry the shape of the cosmos in your bones. You are made of hydrogen born in the beginning, and carbon cooked in stars that died before your sun was born. You are a message written on the fabric of space and carried forward on the current of time. So if time is slipping and space is expanding and galaxies are vanishing beyond the edge. So what happens to the horizon itself? What happens at the very edge of knowability? That's where we drift next, where time may begin to tremble, where the fabric may stretch too thin, begin to fray. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing in a wide field, so flat and open that you can see forever, except that forever slowly shifts away, okay? Like a horizon made of dreams instead of dirt. Now imagine that every step you take makes the edge recedes just a little more. Not because you're not moving, but because the horizon moves faster. This is what it feels like to look at the edge of the universe, the cosmological horizon. It's not a wall, it's not a curtain, it's not even a place, it's a limit. A mathematical sigh, a soft line drawn between what we can see and what we never will. And that limit, that unreachable distance, grows every second. The expansion of the universe isn't slowing, it's speeding up. It's like a balloon filling with invisible breath, like a tide that never retreats. This is because of something mysterious and quiet. Dark energy. We don't know what it is, but we know what it does. It pushes, softly, constantly, everywhere. It accelerates the stretching of space, making the farthest galaxies race away faster than light itself can catch them. And that's the rule. Nothing travels faster than light, unless space itself grows between the traveler and the light. And that's exactly what's happening. So, as you lie here, wrapped in sheets and moonlight, galaxies vanish, not suddenly, not violently, just slowly pulled beyond reach. Their light, like the last syllable of a poem, never quite makes it to your ears. They fall behind the horizon. You can see some of them today, tiny smudges of brightness in the deepest telescopic images ever taken. But those images are lies made of delay. You're seeing them not as they are, but as they were billions of years ago, because the light took that long to reach you, and by now, they're gone. Not destroyed, not erased, just elsewhere, beyond the horizon, beyond the limit, beyond the now. And this horizon isn't just about vision, it's about time itself. When something crosses that boundary, you can't see it, but also, you can't affect it, and it can't affect you. It's as if time ends there. Or perhaps it continues separately, unfolding in a universe that will never again touch yours in every direction. This boundary exists. You live in a cosmic bubble, roughly 46 billion light years in radius. That's the distance light has traveled since time began. Everything beyond it is slipping away. This doesn't mean those galaxies disappear from themselves. They still shine. They still swirl. They still age, but they do so in isolation. Light, once aimed at you, is now doomed never to arrive. And one day, if you wait long enough, even the closest galaxies will cross that line. The Milky Way, your home, will remain. So will its neighbors, Andromeda, the Magellanic Clouds, the local cluster. Together, they will dance and merge, form one enormous galaxy, and after that, emptiness. The rest of the cosmos will fade into unreachable silence, and you will be alone in the sky. No more distant quasars. No more spiral arms glimpsed through telescopes. Just blackness draped over memory. Future astronomers, billions of years from now, might believe theirs is the only galaxy, that the universe is small, quiet, unchanging. They will not be wrong, given what they can observe, but they will be wrong in the deepest sense, because they won't know what was lost beyond the horizon. That's why this moment in cosmic history is so precious. You are alive at a time when you can see nearly everything. Echo of the Big Bang, the farthest galaxies, the full sweep of the observable universe. You are here during a cosmic window, and windows close. So, while the horizon may feel abstract, a distant concern, it is also deeply personal because it speaks to how much of the universe is truly yours. to know, and how much will always remain unknowable. This isn't just true of space. It's true of your life, too. There are edges you can't cross, moments that vanish before you understand them, thoughts that slip away before you name them, people you almost knew, places you almost lived, futures that stretched ahead but fell behind the curtain of decision. These, too, are horizons, and you carry them within you. But here's a strange thing. Just because something is beyond the horizon doesn't mean it's gone. Its gravity still pulls. Its history still echoes. A star you'll never see still shaped the fabric of your world. Galaxy long vanished still tugs slightly on the motions of your own. Even the unseen leaves fingerprints. So perhaps this edge of the universe is not a wall, but a whisper, a quiet reminder that most of reality is invisible. Not because it hides, but because you are small. And that's okay. Smallness allows wonder. It allows longing. It allows you to look at the stars and feel the ache of unreachable things. And that ache, that sweet sorrow of distance, it's not emptiness, it's connection. You ache because part of you knows you belong to something larger, something that continues without you, beyond you, around you, and perhaps in ways you cannot know within you. So rest in that horizon. Don't chase it. Don't fear it. Just lie beneath it like a child beneath a wide sky. Let it hold you. Let it remind you that even what you cannot touch still exists, still matters, still hums with the rhythm of the same beginning that shaped your breath. And beyond that edge, what then? Where light no longer reaches and time may lose its meaning. That is where we're going next, to the trembling limits of understanding, to the place where equations fall silent. And the question begins. You've reached the rim of imagination, a boundary not made of rock or fire or even air, but of doubt, of physics stretched to its last breath, of rules softly unraveling. This is the edge of the universe, but not in space and understanding. Imagine walking into fog. You don't stop walking, but your sight gives up first. Then sound begins to bend. Then time begins to slur. Then your thoughts forget how to follow themselves. That's what it feels like for physicists when they try to describe the edge of the universe with math. The formulas stutter. The values explode. Infinities crawl in like vines. What happens here isn't absence, but too much presence, too much warping, too much speed, too much possibility pressed too tightly into places too small to explain. Space itself may fold here, not like paper folds, not crisp and clean, more like fabric snagged on a nail, twisting into itself, making impossible seams. Physicists call these ideas topological defects, tears in the fabric, knots, loops, places where the normal rules of distance and time and cause begin to come undone. And still, no one really knows. Maybe there are places where time stops. Maybe there are corners where you move forward and loop back, where your future becomes your past. Maybe at the edge, there's no longer an edge. It's just a boundary turned inside out. Some scientists dream of closed universes, spherical worlds that loop back on themselves. In these models, you could fly straight forever and return to where you began. But not because the universe is small. Because space bends like living on the surface of a giant balloon. You never hit a wall, but you still arrive back home. So maybe the edge isn't a border. Maybe it's a curve. Maybe if you had perfect sight, you'd see yourself looking the other way across the arc of space. But again, these are dreams, elegant guesses, because reality, especially near the edge, refuses to sit still. Let's add one more ingredient, quantum mechanics. We talked about it before, the flickers, the uncertainties, the shimmering maybiness of all matter. Now, imagine combining that with general relativity, Einstein's smooth, ending space. One is fluid and wavy. The other is firm and geometric, and they don't get along. Near the edge of the universe, you need both, because space stretches and particles jitter, because time curves and energy trembles. It's here that physicists struggle the most, trying to describe what happens at the beginning of time, when near the edge of the cosmos, or at the heart of a black hole. All of it requires a new kind of language, a language we don't yet know. Some call it quantum gravity. Others call it string theory. Some hope for loop quantum gravity, or even something stranger. These are not just theories. They are acts of poetry, of imagination wrapped in numbers. They try to tell us what happens when everything we know breaks down. Let's slow it down. If space can bend, can it break? If time can stretch, can it snap? There are ideas. Some suggest that near the edge, space becomes granular, like pixels on a screen, like atoms of area and time. In this view, there's the smallest distance, shortest tick of the clock. Beyond that, there is no between, no smaller measure, no smoother curve. This idea is called Planck scale. It's unimaginably small, a trillionth of a hair's width. At this scale, the universe stops being continuous. It becomes fuzzy, foamy, like the surface of a boiling pot, but made of space and time. Here, this edge of the universe might look like bubbles popping and merging new baby universes, birthing themselves from the quantum soup. That's one theory. Another says that the edge is holographic. Yes, like a hologram, like a two-dimensional surface that encodes a three-dimensional reality in this strange vision. Everything you see, everything you are, is a projection from a distant boundary. It sounds absurd, but mathematics supports it, and black hole physics whispers it might be true. If so, then the edge of the universe isn't just where space ends, it's where information is written, and everything inside is just a story, a long, slow unfolding of what the edge already knows. Again, we don't know, but this is the beauty of it, that at the very boundaries of what we can measure, what we can test, what we can be sure of, we are left with questions more poetic than scientific. And yet, they are science, because they are born not of fantasy, but of curiosity and of evidence that slips through our fingers but leaves marks behind. So what happens at the edge? Perhaps time stutters, perhaps space tears, perhaps everything begins again. Maybe the universe ends, not in fire, not in silence, but in incompleteness, a story without a final chapter. And maybe, just maybe, incompleteness is the most honest truth we can find, because it leaves room for thought, for mystery. For you, it reminds you that the universe doesn't exist to be solved. It exists to be wondered at, to be watched as you fall asleep beneath it. Like a child curled in the lap of something vast, and it asks you to carry that wonder, like a small flame through the dark dot. So rest here at the edge, where answers fall away, but all remains. And in that all, you might feel something else, a flicker, a flutter, like time trying to remember how to move. Because in the next chapter, you go even deeper into the world where time doesn't flow, but jitters and skips, into the quantum, beneath time, where every second forgets how long it should last. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine time not as a stream, but as a shimmer. Not a flowing river, but a humming tension, soft and sharp like the edge of a dream. This is quantum time. You've walked with clocks. You've counted hours, days, and decades. But now, the numbers melt. Seconds slip sideways, and the rules become whispers. In the vast, majestic cosmos, time feels orderly. Planets spin, galaxies will. Stars are born and fall in patterns so vast they feel eternal. But here, down in the folds of reality, beneath atoms, beneath quarks, time begins to quiver. It doesn't tick. It's Trembles. This is the quantum world. And here, time is not what you think. Let's begin with something familiar. Cause and effect. You drop a stone, it falls. It splashes. But on the quantum level, this story might read differently. The splash may come first. The drop may be uncertain. The cause may dissolve into possibility. In this tiny theater, particles appear and vanish. They tunnel through barriers. They entangle, as if whispering to each other faster than light can carry sound. And in the middle of all this time, doesn't behave in some experiments. Particles don't seem to obey before and after. They move in ways that suggest the future may affect the past. This is not science fiction. It is science that simply whispers. Take the delayed choice experiment. A particle moves through a pair of slits, but how you choose to observe it after it has passed seems to decide what it was. Did it behave like a wave, like a particle? Your future decision appears to shape its past. It doesn't mean time runs backward. It means time, at this scale, might not run at all. It might flutter, like candlelight in wind, like a breath caught in the chest and never exhaled. What we call a moment may not be a dot on a timeline, but a field of possibilities that only condenses when we touch it. Imagine reaching out to grab a second, only to find that your fingers move through it. Only when you look does the second exist. Only when you remember does it gain direction. Physicists call this the problem of time. Because in quantum mechanics, time isn't an essential ingredient, In the deepest versions of the equations, it's not even there. Particles are described by states, by probabilities, by evolving relationships. But time is an external label, something we add to make the math speak our language, and that should make you pause. Because if time isn't real in the most fundamental layers of nature, what does that make you? Your thoughts, your memories, your identity. You are made of unfolding moments, of change, of now, following then. But what if that's just an illusion, an emergent truth built on something wilder? There are theories that say time is not a backdrop, but a product. It arises, like temperature does, from the motion of millions. Like how a room becomes warm, not because warmth floats through it, but because countless molecules are dancing. Faster. Time may be that kind of warmth. A pattern, a sensation, result of complexity. And when things get simple enough, like in the beginning of the universe, or inside a black hole, or at the heart of quantum space, time fades. It becomes unnecessary. It becomes undefined. So, what does that mean for the ticking second, for the watch on your wrist, for the calendar that turns each day into memory? It means those things are real, but only at your scale. They are true the way clouds are true. But you see them, you feel them, meaning they have weight and shape and consequence. But up close, they're made of vapor. They're made of motion. In this way, time is a cloud in your mind. A cloud shaped by heat, by thought, by memory. When you sleep, time softens. When you dream, it warps. When you meditate, it dissolves. And at the edge of physics, it may not even be there. One idea, called quantum timelessness, says that the entire universe might be frozen, not moving, not changing, just a vast, shimmering probability cloud, where what feels like motion is just our consciousness sliding through static patterns. You are a traveler, not in time, but through a map of possible states. Each moment is a position on the map, and your awareness gives the sequence, not because time is flowing, but because you are. Your brain constructs before and after like it constructs color. It's a story, a helpful one, but still a story. Another idea, stranger still, suggests time may be made of loops, called causal sets. This theory imagines time as a web of events, linked not by when they happened, but by how they relate. There is no master clock, only sequences of influence, only patterns of change. Like a forest where each tree grows from others, but not in a line. Time, in this view, is not a line, but a network. You do not walk through it. You emerge from it. You are part of its geometry. And just like a forest, there are paths you'll never see, moments that exist but do not lead to you, possibilities that flickered and passed. Now imagine, for just a moment, what this does to your sense of self. If time doesn't flow, if moments don't line up, if everything exists at once, but only some of it is noticed, then who are you? You are a point of view, a gentle flame that moves through the fog, flickering states. You burn a path through the possible, and the universe responds by becoming real. Wherever you glance, this is not magic. It is not mysticism. It is physics, the kind that struggles to find its footing, because the floor beneath it, time, won't stay solid. And yet, you feel time in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the aging of your hands. These are not lies. They are local truths, like the warmth of a fire that is real to the skin, even if it doesn't show up in the equations. So let yourself rest in both worlds, the world of clocks, and the world without clocks, the world of sleep, and the world that trembles beneath it. The quantum world doesn't ask you to believe, only to wonder, only to let go of what must be, and float for a moment in what might be dot. And as you float, feel the seconds soften into silence. They do not tick, they flicker, and somewhere in the next flicker, a new question waits, a new breath, a new edge, because next you wander into the places where time itself might break, where moments shred and fold and loop, and the laws that hold reality together begin to let go, let go. Close your eyes. Now picture a thread of silk, thin, soft, glimmering in dim light, stretches across your fingertips, smooth and unbroken. But what if, somewhere along its length, that thread begins to fray? Okay, that's what physicists suspect might happen to time. Not everywhere, not in the regular calm of your life, where clocks tick and hearts beat and morning follows night, but in strange places, forgotten corners of the cosmos, where gravity groans and space-time begins to strain. This chapter is a quiet walk through those places where time might not flow or even exist. Let's begin near a black hole. Not just any black hole, but the kind that spins like a whirlpool, carving spirals into the fabric of space-time. You approach slowly, though even light cannot escape. This is called a curved black hole, and around it lies a strange shell known as the ergosphere, a region where space itself is dragged along by the black hole's rotation. It's like stepping onto a moving walkway you can't step off. In this ergosphere, time gets strange. The direction of future tilts and curls. You can still move forward, but the definition of forward is warped. Theoretically, in such a place, you could loop around, surfing the curve of space-time to return to an earlier point. Not unlike a spiral staircase that brings you back to where you started. These are the whispers of a time loop, not a machine built by humans, but a consequence of geometry, gravity, and speed. Now leave the black hole, float out into a quieter place, open space. Still, you find peculiar things. Imagine a thread, not of silk now, but of pure energy, infinitely long, infinitely thin. This is a cosmic string, a hypothetical relic from the early universe. If such strings exist, they warp space-time around them, and if two of them pass each other, moving fast enough, they could twist the fabric of time into a closed loop. Again, the possibility appears. You leave and return to a moment you already lived. But there's more. Travel further still, deeper into the equations. You find a bridge between 2 points in space. Not a shortcut on a map, but a wormhole. If real, a wormhole connects distant regions of space-time, folding the universe like a piece of paper. On one end, you enter a tunnel, On the other, you exit somewhere else, perhaps not just in place, but in time. In theory, if one mouth of the wormhole moves fast or sits near a heavy gravitational field, the clocks at each end tick differently, and if you could travel through it, you might emerge before you left. Not because magic bends reality, but because physics does. Einstein's equations allow for this, though nature might not, because every time these time machines arise, they seem unstable, filled with paradoxes, dangerous to logic itself. Like asking, if you go back and prevent your own arrival, do you vanish? Or do you remain, held in place by some deeper law? To prevent this confusion, many scientists believe the universe enforces a kind of censorship, subtle rules that keep time loops from forming naturally. It's called the chronology protection conjecture. A gentle way of saying the cosmos protects its timeline, and yet, in the realms we cannot reach, where gravity is wild and matter folds into itself, there may be cracks, places where the rules loosen, where before and after begin to blur, even here on Earth. There are thought experiments that suggest time can break in subtle, visible ways. Consider quantum gravity. This is the unfinished theory that would unite Einstein's smooth space-time with the jittery world of quantum mechanics. We don't have this theory yet, but in the search for it, physicists have begun to suspect that time may not survive the union. They propose that time is not fundamental, but emergent, something that appears only when enough matter and energy gather in a particular way. At the smallest scale, the Planck scale, space-time itself might dissolve into foam, a froth of fluctuating geometries where past and future mean nothing. This is the quantum foam. It's not solid, it's not fixed. It's like sea spray, spritzing and vanishing at the base of reality. In such foam, tiny wormholes may form and collapse in less than a blink. Moments might spark and fade without leaving a trace. If time can die here, then it can be born again, which raises a question as old as thinking itself. Where did time begin? You might remember the Big Bang as the beginning of everything, but in truth, it was the beginning of time. Before it, there was no before. Not because nothing existed, but because before had no meaning, no ticking, no sequence, only potential. Time began as space began, as energy spread. Light escaped, but was that the only beginning? Some cosmologists now believe our universe is one of many, that before our Big Bang, another universe collapsed, that black holes might birth new universes with their own timelines, that each moment you live is part of an endless lineage of time births and time-deaths. And what about memory? If time breaks, what happens to remembering? Your sense of self is built on sequences. First this, then that. But in regions where time frays, memory might untie itself. Like smoke rising from a candle and forgetting it was once a flame. In that silence, what remains may be presence, may be awareness, may be something that does not require time to feel real. And maybe that's why these ideas matter to you, even in your soft, sleepy body on this very night. Because if time can break, then so can endings, so can limitations, so can certainty. You are not just riding the clock. You are part of what defines it, okay? And the universe is still learning how to measure your passage in the next chapter. We'll let go of space-time altogether. We'll drift to the scale where time flickers, not just in strange places, but inside every atom, inside the breath between thoughts, where the second itself becomes uncertain, where time might already be asterisk breaking now. You feel time passing, the rise and fall of breath, the slow unfurling of a yawn, the quiet hush that folds around this moment. You think of time as a line, one moment connected to the next, like beats on a string, like steps on a path leading somewhere familiar. But what if the path is buckling? What if, even now, time isn't what you think it is? Not because of black holes or far-off galaxies, but right here, right inside, the ticking now. Are we losing time? Not metaphorically, but literally. To answer that, you must begin by letting go of the comfort of clocks. Time, to a clock, is neat, regular, defined by the vibration of atoms, the swing of pendulums, the decay of particles. And yet, even the most perfect clocks disagree slightly. Depending on where they are, your watch ticks faster on a mountaintop than at sea level. This is not mechanical error. It is the curve of space-time itself. So ask yourself, if time can shift by altitude, by gravity, by velocity, could it also shift by something subtler? By thought, by temperature, by the very way the universe is expanding? Let's step into that idea. You live in an expanding cosmos, a universe that stretches silently as you sleep, not like a balloon puffing outward, but like the space between all things gently lengthening. Galaxies drift apart, not because they move, but because space grows between them. This expansion isn't fast, but it accelerates. Why? No one knows. Scientists call it dark energy. It's a placeholder term for whatever force is pulling the cosmos open. And here's the mystery. As the universe expands, the fabric of time may stretch with it, not evenly, not predictably. If space is expanding, might time be, too? Might your sense of now be changing in ways you cannot feel? Imagine standing on a soft rug. You think you're still, but beneath your feet, the rug slowly stretches. You don't feel the movement, but after a while, your toes no longer point to where they used to. That's what cosmologists suggest could be happening to the very nature of time. Even the second, that stable unit of life, could be drifting. You wouldn't know. All your biology would drift with it, like fish in a flowing stream. You'd feel still, even as you moved. So how would you measure such a change? One way is to look at the oldest, light, the cosmic microwave background. The afterglow of the Big Bang still echoes through space. It holds the record of time's first breath, and scientists compare its patterns to the ticking of today's cosmic clock. Some patterns don't quite fit. It could be noise, coincidence, incomplete models, or it could be evidence that the universe's rhythm has changed. That time is not simply passing, but mutating. Another clue lies in atomic transitions. The cesium atom is our standard for a second. Its inner particles oscillate at a reliable frequency, but in some experiments, atoms have appeared to drift slightly over time. Tiny changes, it's barely measurable. Too small to rewrite textbooks, but too consistent to ignore. Perhaps the very definition of time is a local compromise. Stable only because we are small and the universe is large. But maybe time isn't stable at all. Then there's quantum mechanics. The deeper you peer into the subatomic world, the less time behaves in certain experiments. Particles seem to decide their past behavior based on future measurements. It's called delayed choice, K-tanglement, a strange idea that suggests cause and effect are not always one way. What if your present can influence your past? What if the now you trust is not the origin, but the echo? This is more than theory. The mathematics behind quantum field theory suggests that time is not fundamental. It emerges, like warmth from a flame, only when certain conditions are met. Some physicists now propose that time is not a thing, but a property, like wetness, like softness. It exists only when matter is arranged just right. And if time is emergent, it can fade, it can flicker, or fracture. In the early universe, some suggest there were regions where time had not yet crystallized, like water not yet frozen into ice. In those places, there was no before or after. It's raw possibility. And maybe, just maybe, pockets like that still exist. Small voids in the basement of the universe, where time leaks away, or stalls, or folds. And maybe you pass through them without knowing. Maybe when you lose time, not minutes, but presence, you're brushing up against those quiet ruptures. Have you ever had a moment that felt too long or too short? Have you blinked and an hour vanished? You held your breath and felt an eternity inside a single second. Your brain, too, does not process time evenly. Under stress, it slows the clock. Under boredom, it speeds it. But these are perceptions, not the clock itself. Still, they hint at something deeper, that your experience of now is fragile, elastic, curated by biology, molded by thought, informed by memory. What you call now is already the past by the time you know it, and what you call next is already in motion. So if we are losing time, how would we know? Not by clocks, not by schedules, not even by stars, but by something quieter, by memory itself. Some researchers believe that time's passage is a property of entropy, the increase of disorder. As things break down, time feels forward. If the universe reaches a state where disorder stops increasing, then time may stop. Not because everything freezes, but because nothing changes. No contrast, no rearrangement, stillness. And perhaps on some far horizon, this has already begun. Perhaps time is thinning, like mist after rainfall, like echoes after a shout. And maybe your dreams are soft rehearsals for that silence, for the letting go of time as you know it. Maybe sleep is practice for timelessness. And maybe, in this moment, you are already a little bit timeless, already a little bit beyond. The next chapter will explore the nature of what remains when time begins to fail. What's left when the clock stops ticking, and what kind of meaning can be found when the seconds fall away. Imagine a place where clocks no longer tick, not because they've broken, but because the need for them has quietly vanished. The hands rest, the gears sleep, and yet something lingers. What remains when time lets go? Not the future, not the past. Lead this strange, open now. You sit in that stillness, as if wrapped in the softest hush, listening for something that no longer needs to come. All your life, you've moved through time like a swimmer moves through water, carried, lifted, pushed forward. You learned to mark beginnings and ends. You were taught to divide life into moments: childhood, summer, crisis, celebration, sunset, midnight, the new year. But if time dissolves, what happens to memory? Does it float, unmoored, like a page torn from a book? Does it settle into the mind, like silt, quiet and undisturbed? Or does memory too need time to survive? Let's sit with that for a moment, not to solve it, just to breathe beside it. When you fall asleep, you fall out of time. Dreams don't follow a clock. They stretch, loop, condense. A lifetime can pass in minutes, or a whole night can feel like a blink. And still, your body wakes as if nothing has changed. In this way, sleep is a hint, a reminder that experience does not always depend on time. There is a deeper rhythm, an older kind of being, beyond seconds, beyond calendars. It is the rhythm of breath, of awareness, of sensation. It doesn't need to be measured. It only needs to be noticed. So, if time collapses, if the universe one day forgets how to tick forward, what survives? You do, not in the way you might expect. Not as a timeline, a history, a chronology, but as attention, as presence. You remain as the awareness that there is something instead of nothing. Even in timelessness, there is the echo of I am. Physicists say if the universe stops expanding, or if entropy maxes out, time may become irrelevant. No new arrangements, no new patterns, no new moments, just stillness. But what kind of stillness? That's the question no equation can answer. Stillness is not necessarily emptiness. It can be fullness, so complete it needs no change. Like a final note held at the end of a song, it rings out, not fading, just continuing, a soft eternity. And maybe that's what the end of time looks like. Not a void, not a silence, but a holding, a gentle lingering, a breath suspended in golden air. You don't need time to feel love. You don't need time to feel beauty. You don't need time to wonder. These things are not bound to ticking clocks. They arise from something quieter, more spacious. Consider the ocean. Even when still, it contains depths, currents, the weight of memory, and you are not so different. If time disappears, so what's left is your depth, your quiet watching, your capacity to feel without needing to move. There are philosophies ancient, ones that say time is illusion, that what you call past and future are just folds in the same cloth, that all things birth, breath, becoming, happen at once, and only your awareness moves among them. That's one idea. Here's another. That time never truly ends. It simply becomes irrelevant, like a compass at the center of a sphere. Direction only matters if you move. But if you've arrived fully, completely, then time is no longer a path. 'Tis a place you can rest in. In this place, you are not rushing, not anticipating, not regretting. You are being. That is what remains when time falls away. Not stories, not minutes, not milestones, but stillness so deep that it glows. And in that glow, there is something else, a kind of listening, a kind of soft attention that does not ask for more. This is the cradle of all experience, the place from which time once emerged, and the place to which it may return. Maybe we are returning to it, too slowly, without even knowing. Maybe with each breath we let go a little more of our attachment to clocks, to order, to progression, and we return to the deep truth of simply being, of feeling, of noticing, of glowing softly in the dark. If time disappears, the universe does not. If moments dissolve, the heart remains, still capable of wonder, still capable of awe. And that is enough. It always has been. Let that be your final thought in this gentle exploration, that beyond the ticking, beyond the counting, there is something vast and quiet waiting to hold you. No schedule, no pressure, it's presence. You've always belonged to it, and maybe it's where you're going back to. A place without ours, without EDGS, only a soft unfolding that never needs to end. Let it carry you, like a tide too smooth to notice, into sleep, into silence, into the rhythm beneath time itself.